Guys, and here is a CSS build that looks good. It's clean. We have a little bit of shadow. It's smooth. Guys, what is going on? It is Pags. We are here programming with Pags. This is a tutorial on CSS. I'm going to teach you how to build a very crispy CSS styling. I've been complimented very many times on, guys, forgive me, I'm going to adjust this camera for a sec. But I've been complimented very many times on my ability to stylize stuff. Let me explain bird's eye view of what HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is, and the portion of those three that we're focusing on, which is going to be CSS today. So I have this little image here, and I explained this in the HTML video, and I explained this in the JavaScript video, but here's the visual I wanted to give you guys. So HTML, it's going to be the structure of a website. It's going to be the infrastructure of all our foundation. And it's super important to understand because HTML is what builds all of the JavaScript frameworks like JSX elements. The front end demonstration of the data is coming through on HTML. So it's super important to have HTML just absolutely down. CSS is the next most important bit. The reason I say it is because, or it's not important to get it at 100% down, but you need it 80% down where you're good enough. And I'll explain why. Imagine going on a website, and the website could be super good. It might be an application you use every day. But if it looks really bad, if it looks sketchy, if it looks like it's not really styled, like we all know what I'm talking about. You go to a login page or a checkout page to buy something, and it's like you don't trust it because it looks bad. CSS is really important for that reason. If you have clean and organized CSS, it lets people know that you're taking your career, your application serious. That just because it looks nice, it probably means the code behind it is nice as well. JavaScript as well is super important, and that's the functionality and the obviously when you click checkout on this said web application, you want it to work. So before diving into the tutorial itself, I just wanted to explain kind of those three buckets. Again, HTML, it's going to be the infrastructure of a house, right? The 2x4 is the foundation, all the structure that we kind of need. The CSS, this is the styling. This is going to be, what the house looks like, if you will, right? So we have our structure. Now we're putting stuff on it to make the house look pretty. And then, like I said, JavaScript is going to be, now we have functionality. Now we have HVAC. Now we have plumbing. Now we have electrical stuff. That is JavaScript, the functionality, the thing that keeps you warm in the winter, that actually gives your house extended functionality beyond it just looking good and beyond it being, a structure, right? So that's kind of how to think about those three buckets of web development. With that being said, let's dive into the tutorial. So you need VS Code. I just downloaded or just opened up a VS Code project. And all I've done is just build a folder, a CSS tutorial folder, dropped it in there. So step one, I'm going to open up a new file, and I'm going to say index.html. This index.html, this is what we covered a little bit on the HTML tutorial. Here I just pressed exclamation point. You could see it popped open an HTML snippet. If yours didn't do that, that's okay. Just copy this down real quick. The GitHub repository is going to be linked in the description. So I'll have this available for you as well. And in step one, what we want to do is link our HTML page to our CSS page. Or I guess step two, right? We have our index.html. And we now need to build a style.css page. And this is where all of our Cascade style sheet stuff is going to exist. It's going to be in the style.css page. So in my header tag, guys, and let me zoom in so we're not so far out. I'm on a really big monitor, so it's easy for me to stay zoomed out. But I recognize on YouTube it sometimes looks really small. So I'm really zoomed in right now, and you can see on the left we have our HTML file, and then on the right we have our CSS file. It's just these two files right here. That's all we're at so far, guys. And within this header tag, I just want to link the style.css to the HTML file. So, sorry, my phone is getting text a bunch right now. So I'm going to start typing link, and I have my IntelliSense set up where I have these options that come down with all of my HTML tags. So I'm going to choose the one that is :CSS. And if you don't, just type this out, link relations style sheet and then href to your style.css. It's really important that this matches this. The naming of this style.css matches the naming of what we name the style sheet. So do that here, and boom, and our style sheet is literally linked up. So let's go ahead and start building a div. And I'll say this is a test div, or maybe this is a container div, right? It's not how you spell container. And then maybe within the container, we'll put another div of like content. So this is all we have is just this. And the way to attach your CSS styling to a HTML element is through an attribute called a class. And you say class equals quotes. And here's where we can define any class name we want. Being that we know, let me give us a little bit of space here. Sorry, every time I save, my prettier will automatically format the code, but we can name this class whatever we want. And we know it's a container, so, or will be a container, meaning it's just going to be like a card or a box. Better yet, let's make it a card. And I'll just call this class card. Just that's it. Just whatever I want to name it. It's for me to know what I'm building. So it doesn't need to be anything specific. I can literally name it random stuff. The only thing that matters is that I match that name over here. Now, of course, I'm not going to have card and footage or whatever those random words are. I'm just going to do card, but I just wanted to establish that point that you can name your class whatever you want. It just is letting us know that this style sheet is linked to this class on the left side. So how to style now our card? I'm going to do curly brackets like this. And you can open them up, and we now have access to a few styling options. We could do some colors, we could do some background colors, we could do some shadows, we can do some radiuses, some paddings, things like this. So let's kind of leapfrog off the HTML tutorial of I actually put it out yesterday, or actually this morning, I think. So if you saw that, you saw how everything is just like really just kind of ugly. It's just there. It's just white with black text, and it's just there. CSS is the magical thing. When I learned web development, that I was like, I need to know this so good, because you can make things look so cool, like so cool. So let's focus on that. I have my live server. Again, so if you don't have that, go to your extensions and download Live Server. It's going to be this first one by Ritzwick Day. And I have a Go Live button. You can press that. If not, you could press Command Shift or Control Shift and P. So Command Shift P on Mac, Control Shift P on Windows, I believe, and say Open with Live Server. It's going to be this first option. And that should give you a live server window. I'm seeing on which one of my monitors that popped up. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's right here, and you could see. Let me just resize this a bit. Sorry, trying to keep it still within the screen recording, guys. And I hope you could see it. This is my first time. I transitioned over to a new recording service. So hopefully you guys can see all this, and hopefully it comes through really well. But you could see on the right on our DOM, or our window that we're building, our website that we're building, if you will, we could see this content right here. So I could say anything again over here, and it should pop up on our DOM. Now we can start colorizing and building out this card and this container and start building things. So I want to build a business card just with a little bit of gradient and show you guys how pretty you can make CSS just knowing a few things. So let's dive in. So we have this card, and what I want to do is say background color. We'll start with something like white, right? Or white smoke, if you will. And you can see there's just a faint haze. It's just a little bit different from our white background. And yeah, you know, that's how we know that our style sheet is linked up, number one. And number two, we could start adding other things. We could say, well, I want a little bit of padding, and padding kind of gives any element a little bit of space. So we have a few different what are they called, units, if you will. You could say rem for one of them, and you could see it kind of made this square. Let me make this square actually a little bit darker, just for right now. We'll lighten it up in a moment, but we have a unit called a rem. We have other units. We have ems. Ems and rems are similar. They kind of go off the screen size that exists. We can do pixels, right? So we could do like 100 pixels for padding. You could do percentages, I believe. So 100% padding. There's a bunch of other, you can see it pop up actually here. These are all of our units that we could choose from, but probably the main ones you want to focus on are going to be your pixels, and your rims and percentages are the ones that I've consistently used professionally and unprofessionally. So I'll just go ahead and say one rem, and you can see that kind of gives us a little bit of space. And then we can do other things as well. So we have like a border radius that we can add, and I could say 8 pixels just to kind of round off the corners so it's not so square. I can add a box shadow, and this is a little bit different. The box shadow, you have to add a few different pixel values. So you do 1 pixel. 1 pixel, you could see that I've already had it IntelliSensed out for me. And then you have an RGBA, that's the color of the shadow you want. And you can see faintly around the card there's a little bit of a shadow. So hold on, let me just open this CSS style sheet a little bit more. So we have this it tells you to let's see, maybe it doesn't here, but if you look up CSS classes or CSS like box shadow, if you need to use it, it'll tell you exactly what all of these properties are, and basically and totally mess around, break some stuff, but it lets you know like how to make the shadow move down or move to the right, or make it really blurry or not so blurry and make it really dense. And that's going to be all of these guys right here. So for instance, if we did like 10 pixels, you could see that the shadow moved to the right. You could see this thing right here. I'll do this one as well, and you can see it moved down a whole bunch. And I believe this parameter is the blur of it. Yeah, so you can see it kind of like made it more fuzzy. And then as mentioned, this one's the color. So you could put in your own RGBA terms right here, and obviously colorize your shadow if you want to something red if you want. But I'm not going to do all this. I'm just going to keep it simple and soft. And I would always encourage that as well with CSS. Like do soft adjustments everywhere. Like don't do these big shadows and things. Do soft adjustments everywhere, because it just when you add 5 different things together and they're all softly done and really done meticulously and precisely, it looks really good by the end of it. So you can see we're kind of building this card. I'm going to lighten it up again. Let's see, we're going to go to maybe 240, 241. So it just kind of pops off the page a little bit. We still have ugly font colors. So I'm going to say star. This stands for all elements in our file. So I just want to change the font family. So I'll say font dash family, excuse me. And I'm going to change it to this Verdana 1. Just to kind of make the font just a little bit better looking than that Times New Roman one, whichever this one is. I think it is Times New Roman. So you can see our things starting to come together a little bit more. And I'm going to save this over here. We still have that cache data of the random letters there, but yeah, guys. So we have this card, and we're styling it. Now I want to build this card, and then I want to put a basically I want it to be a digital business card. So I want it to have my face like a circle, kind of like this circle here, right, on the business card. And then I want my name, right, like up top of the business card, and then maybe a description of like what I do, what I'm about, or something. And I want it to look good. That's the biggest thing that we're going to do today, guys. Because if you can make a card look good, it's so important, because everything is kind of built around these cards, right? Like buttons are really just cards. They're like cards that are either rounded or kind of square looking or tall or short. Even in a table, oftentimes when I build a table of data, I just look at each row as like a card, basically. When you look at divs, like giant tiles on a website, like let's even look at Team Syncer, for example. These tiles, granted, they have some other stuff going, some parallel X stuff going with them, but these are just divs. These are just divs. They're cards, basically. This button is basically a card. This right here is basically a card. This table is just lines of cards. When we go to the application itself, it's you have cards down here. They're buttons, obviously to do functionality stuff, but it's not this whole thing where sorry guys, I'm going to just show you guys more of. It's so important to get CSS down, because all this stuff is just cards. Like all these things, even these task cards are quite literally task cards. So when you can get your styling down and here, I'm going to pop this off. No more looking at that, but everything can just be broken down to these kind of like Lego brick cards, if you will. Like, oh, I need a button that does this. Well, okay, awesome. Like, just build it out as a little Lego brick for you and resize it. And that's going to be dealing with your padding, for instance, So let's see. So I could do larger padding here, and then I could even do 4 rem to kind of give it left and right padding, right? So the first one is going to be your top and bottom, and your second element here. So we have the first element, that's top and bottom. Then we have the second, which is going to be left and right. So I actually want to do the opposite. I actually want 1 rem here and then 4 rem, and we'll see it get bigger. So yeah, you can kind of build stuff like that, or you could also do even the height if you want. So you could say 100 pixels for the height. It'll take you 100 pixels. Or oftentimes I've had width of things be specifically 300 pixels is kind of a common width that I've seen. So you can see it kind of bleeds off the page a little. But there's a tremendous amount of value of just getting really good at CSS. Now I wouldn't spend too much value, but I would spend enough of your time where you can kind of build out your own independent things. So even at this point in the tutorial, pause it, build yourself another card. Even just take time, build another class over here on the left and say card 2. And build it out, make it a different color, make it a different size, and then come back and we'll keep building. We'll keep building. So, assuming you're back now, I want to build the card where like I said, I've got like an image of my face, I've got like a title of who I am, and a small description about me. So let's go ahead and build for that. So we have our card. The content here, I'm going to copy this down. And I'm going to say Ryan, that's my name, Ryan Pags. And then I also want to have a bio about me. I am a software engineer and techpreneur. So over here, you can see we have what's content, and this is ultimately going to be an image of my face here shortly. And then we have my name, and then we have a little bit about a bio about me. Now it doesn't look the best. So how can we organize this where it looks better structured? And what I want to do is I'm going to give these all classes real quick just to show us what we're working with. So class, I'm going to define that as image. This class I'll define as name, and this class I'll define as bio, just to keep things simple. So I know the image one. We'll say background, and I'm going to obviously change all these, but we're going to say background blue just so we can see that box, if you will, or that image element. And same with the name, we'll say background. And I do this all the time, even to this day. I'll still do this very practice of colorizing my elements so I know which one is I'm working with. It's a really easy, fast way to see, oh, okay, this is why this one is this wide, this is why this one's organized here. It's a quick way to do it. So you can see we have this organization of our items stacked on top of each other. 1, 2, 3. There's something called flex that we can do within the parent element, the card here. That's the parent of these. These would be considered the children because they're in between the card. But there's this CSS thing called flex, and you'll see what it does. It'll when we do display : flex, it'll put all of our elements left and right instead of top and bottom. There's other things we can do. We can do flex direction, right? We could say column reverse or column. Column would stack them back on top of each other. We could say row, right? And that would do left and right. It would just do flex again. But as mentioned, we could do column reverse and it would actually start the bottom element and flip it. So you could see that the last thing, the bio, actually exists on the top. And then we can actually do row reverse, which would do the same thing. So not only flips it from column orientation, but it actually goes to row format, and then it actually flips things as well. So kind of learning flex is this important thing as well. So right now I'm just going to say display flex just to have our image on the left, and then I want my name on top, and then I want my description below the name. So we have to do one more flex box to make that happen. So we kind of have this larger card, that's flexing things left and right, if you will. But then we now need to make these two elements over here on the left on top of each other, because right now they're left and right. So how do we get an element, an image on the left, and then basically another element to the right of it? But then within that element, we have to have two elements stacked on top of each other. So how we do that is we want to wrap this name and bio right here with a div. You can see I can open up this div, and then I want to drag it down where my name and bio are now in this div. So you can see how it just orientated that automatically. That worked awesome. But we have our image on the left, and then we now have that name and then the description below. So our Lego bricks, and they quite literally look like Lego bricks right now, which is awesome. They're in the right orientation. They're perfectly in the right orientation here. So let's go ahead and build out the things to look a little bit more, to look a little bit better. So I'll say padding. Actually, I won't do padding here. I'll say font weight. How about that? We'll go bold to make the name, bigger and bolder, and we'll say font size. Say 2 rems. Let's see how big that is. That's a little too big. So I'll say 1 rem. How about that? Or 16 pixels. How big is that? No, that's the same as 1 rem. So we'll say 24 pixels. That's perfect. And then the bio, let's do font size. Let's do small. So it's a little bit smaller. And then we'll say color. This would be text color. And I could say light gray or something like this, where it's a little bit faded out. And let's get rid of these background colors because we now know the orientation of how things are. So you can see it's kind of coming together a bit, right? In this image, we still have to do a few things on. So I'll say height 32 pixels, and I'll say one more width 32 pixels, so we can see that it's going to be a consistent size across any image we give it. And let me delete the colors so we don't see that. Oops, didn't mean to delete the height. You see there's some overlap going on. Not a big deal. We're going to say margin, specifically margin dash right. We'll say 1 rem just to give us some space. And we can actually delete this image text. We don't need it anymore. But what I do want to do, and actually let me put the background color back here. So we'll do background blue. I could say rounded, border radius, and I could say 50%. And what that's going to do is make a circle every time. a perfect circle, or maybe even it's 100%. And that'll be a circle every time. So our business card, if you will, it'll look just like this video recording, like a circle every time. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to, this margin right is a little bit much, so I'm actually going to say 0.5. I don't want it that far away. Okay, and let me find a picture of my face somewhere on the internet. You guys could totally use my face as well if you want. Or use your own, you know what I mean? Use your own. So let's see. I'm going to go to kind of where Team Sinker's initial. Here is my YouTube channel. I'm going to actually screenshot this. So I press Shift Command and 4, and I'm just going to screenshot this guy right here. Boom! Look at that. That'll work. That'll work. I could have even used this little thing right here, but yeah. So I have this screenshot. I'm going to go to my desktop, and I have this screenshot, guys, and I'm going to drag it into here. I'm going to pull it off screen for a sec. I need to make a folder. We kind of went over the images on the HTML tutorial. So I'm going to make a new folder over here, and I'm going to say assets. And then within the asset, I'm going to take that screenshot that I just got, and I am going to drag it in here. And boom, there it is. There's that screenshot. So I'll say my face. That's a great tag, my face. And I'm going to close out of it. Don't need it anymore. And in this div tag, we want to add an image. Now we can actually make the div tag an image tag, or I can make the image tag within the div. That works too. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to say dot slash. I've done that a few times. And then assets, that's the folder we just built. And then myface.png. And you can see, boom, there's a big version of my face, right? What we need to do, and this is actually what we'll end up doing, is pulling this class and putting it on the image tag, and it should shrink it. So I'm actually going to erase the div around it. Let's not do that. But you can see that this image, it's kind of looking all squonkly. It looks weird. It's all crunched. It doesn't look proper. It's not like a clean fitting image. So how we can do that is go to our image, because we're working on the image CSS class. Let's go to the image CSS class on the style sheet. Let me give a little bit of room over here, guys. And I want to say object-fit, and I want to say cover. And you can see the cover object fit, it just kind of like moves everything right? There's a few other ones. There's contain, so it actually shrink the entire image to fit within the parameters it's around, so you can actually do that as well. I guess technically we could do that and make it black because that's the color behind the image would work. But let's not rely on that. Let's do the cover one, because the cover one will fill the entire container still. And you can see it's that rounded image now. So I'm going to make this height and width actually a little bit more, 48 pixels. That's perfect. I'm going to steal this box shadow from the card, and I'm actually going to put it in the image tag. And you can see my face kind of pops up off of the card, if you will, a little bit. This padding, I'm going to say 1.5 up here just to kind of clean it up a bit more. And let's see, what else can I do? I want to add this kind of like beautiful linear gradient stripe at the bottom of the card. So let's do that. Let's plan for that. In the card div right here, I want to add that element here. So I'm going to say div, and then I'm just going to write in text what it'll be. It'll say beautiful stripe on bottom. Obviously it's not there, but we need to organize this so we can do this. We can put this beautiful stripe at the bottom of the page or the bottom of the card. And there's a few things we need to consider. There's a way to do it with flex. We can do that. We can also do it with absolute positioning. There's multiple ways to do it. So I think I wanted to teach you guys absolute positioning, just to do it. So I'll say class equals how do I say? I'll say stripe at the bottom, or beautiful stripe. Stripe is fine. I just don't want it to be confused with Stripe, the payment processing system. That's not what we're building here. But I'll add this dot stripe to. Oh, I opened up my search terminal thing. I'll add this dot stripe to the CSS style sheet, and I'll say background. Again, we're going to add a linear gradient, but I'll say background. Let's just get something ugly. Right now, pink is fine. Let's see, stripe, and make sure to save as well on the style sheets. If there's any differences on your DOM, sometimes you just need to save. So we have this stripe, and what I want to do is say position and go to absolute. And what that does, you can see it's now absolute position value. It's on top of everything. It's ignoring all rules. It's wherever we want to put it. Now I believe I could say bottom. I might do it to get a little IntelliSense help. But if I say bottom here, you can see it goes to the bottom of the DOM, the entire bottom page. And the reason why is because it has no parent value that's saying you can't go that far. But what we want to do is build this card. Again, the card is the parent value. And you see that the bottom here, it ignores everything. If we also did the same thing and said top 0, it would go to the very, very tippy top. If we say right 0, it'll go to the right of the page. But let's choose bottom. And it's going to ignore everything, right? And I'll even add one more parameter and say width 100%. So it's completely full, right? Complete full width. And it's kind of ignoring this element as a whole, which can be useful at times if you need to put a footer at the bottom of the page or just a little copyright text or something. But we want it inside this card, and we want it to exist at this card at the bottom of the card. So how I want to do that is actually say display, and then there's a position, not display, position, and then relative. So what that'll do now, the parent element, the one that has the relative position, the absolute element is the child, the parent element is the relative. So the child that is absolute positioned, it can now only exist inside the parent element that's relative. So if I say top 0 now, it's only going to go to the top of the card. It won't go to the top of the page, versus before it was going to the tippy top of the page. You can see now it has a little gap. And if I said left and right, it's only going to go to the left and right of the card. So let's see. So if I say left 0, you can see it only goes to the left of the card with that little gap in between. If I say right 0, it should also do the same thing. So what we're going to do is say bottom 0, and then we'll actually say left 0 just to put it all the way in the bottom of the card. And the last thing that I want to do is kind of round off these corners. You can see how the corners are poking over. They don't look the best, right? They're kind of jagged versus the rest of the card is this smooth thing. So what I want to do is I could go to the parent and I could say to hide the overflow, right? I could say overflow hidden. That's one way to potentially solve this problem. You can see it rounds off those corners. The other thing I could do is also go to the stripe element and say border radius, or border radius, border bottom radius. Border bottom, where is it? Border bottom radius, boom. Or border bottom left radius, and I'd say 8 pixels, and then border bottom right radius, I could say 8 pixels, and that would round off the bottom. You could do either of those approaches. I always like to show you guys multiple ways to do stuff. But with the card element, I'm just going to say overflow hidden. That's kind of my go-to. So overflow hidden, boom, it hides anything that's overflowing the boundaries of the parent element. So you can see now, let's get rid of this beautiful stripe on bottom. We don't want it, but you can see now it goes away. And the reason why it goes away is just there's no height value associated with our stripe element. So if we go back down to our stripe element and say height, let's say 16 pixels, 16 pixels, forgive me. Boom, now we have it back. And it looks great, it looks awesome. So So this is what our card almost looks like. Let me just do one last thing real quick. And it's going to be a CSS linear gradient generator. So I'm going to Google CSS linear gradient generator. It's actually this one that we want, the cssgradient.io. So I'll copy that in the description as well. And basically here we can choose some colors that go together, and we can build it out to be this pretty experience. So let's go ahead and do that. Over here, I was playing around with it for another build and making these opacity esque things that looked really good. But let's delete some of these, and boom, and that'll work great. Actually, this gradient will work great. So it gives you the code in CSS down here below. I could say copy to clipboard. Let's go back to our stripe. And I'm going to replace background color and paste that in. And you can see now we have this beautiful linear gradient at the bottom of the card here that and I could actually add a little bit more space on this card too. So there's a little bit more padding on top of the stripe, right? So I could say padding or even margin top right, one rem to see if that'll give us a little space. That didn't give us anything. So let's do the card real quick. Let's go up to the card and say padding bottom, and let's say 4 rem, just to give us more depth of that card, if you will. And yeah, guys, that's and you can see it extends to the whole page. Maybe I don't want it to do that, so I'll give the card a width of, you guessed it, 350 pixels. And here's kind of a business card that we built online just with CSS, and it's kind of pretty. We can actually increase the height here. Let's see, 32 pixels. I'll say 24 pixels. See how that looks, guys. And here is a CSS build that looks good. It's clean. We have a little bit of shadow. It's smooth. There's an image associated with it. There's the name. There's a lot going on, and it's simple. It's simple. It's a good starter build of just showing you guys how to build these things in a clean and effective way. So, welcome to the CSS build. I think guys, take a little bit of time to learn CSS, to run through some of these things. And even now, I would say build a business card for, a digital business card, if you will. Build it for a friend of yours. Now that you've built one for yourself, or maybe you modeled my face and did it here. Build one for someone else, and add your own ideas. Maybe you want to add not only a bio, but maybe like a phone number, like a contact information. Maybe you want to change this class to a contact, and put an email here. So I'll say john@gmail.com, right? And build that class out as well. Build it out as you want. So let's see, you could say font gray. You could even make it even lighter, just something, do your own thing though. But take a little bit of time just to build out and mess around with CSS. I can first-handedly tell you it had separated me as a software engineer, amongst other things, but certainly getting the styling down was something that has kept with me throughout my engineering career, of like, wow, like I hear it so much of like, wow, your front-end builds are really pretty. Like, wow, that's really awesome. And I would recommend not over investing time, because you also need to get good at JavaScript and good at other things and API integrations, but that's down the road. If right now you're at CSS, get good at this. Like I said, you don't need to be 100%. You don't need to be able to recite every single pixel value or unit value from CSS, but you do need to be good enough to be snappy, quick, and build pretty stuff, and be able to prototype it very, very fast and effectively. So that's going to be my biggest advice related to CSS is get to that 80% mark where you can Lego brick things around and move stuff. And even as I mentioned, I showed you guys kind of those red, yellow, blue Lego brick kind of techniques. Build some other things. Maybe it's not a card. Maybe it's not a business card you want to build. Build a just 3 columns next to each other. Build something like that, and then put a header above the 3 columns, and then within the columns try to add stuff. Try to add bullet points of like, here's where I started today. Here's what I want to do today. Here's what I'm going to do tomorrow, or something like build stuff that you push yourself to build. Even look at a website, right? I have this HTML versus CSS website. Build this first bit of just like, here's a small text, here's a huge title text, and then actually, yeah, even continue it. Build this, build the little circle. You guys know how to do that with the name and the date, and then throw an image below it. I think if you guys built that, that would be a phenomenal, like you're starting to get it figured out and you know what you're doing. So challenge yourself to the next level and find stuff that you want to build. If it's a website on target, if it's a something personal for you. So I'm curious what you guys are going to build. The link is in the description for the GitHub repository, and I'll also have the link for the cssgradient.io. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something in this tutorial. I will see you on the next one.